Democracy, in its final form, is slavery. And I'm sure this is not a popular opinion or view on democracy as a whole, but the truth is that in a corrupted government, in a corrupted state, democracy is the greatest form of slavery, for there is the illusion of freedom. In this day and age, and say the United States, people vote on things. People vote for who they want as president. People vote for laws, Senate, and people do the bills and so on and so forth in the Congress. But it seems to me that more and more of what the people truly want is just being suppressed and not being allowed to come to light. You know, Jeffrey Epstein died in what, 2019, 2020? And, we still do not have the Epstein files. And, people want them. And for some reason, we do not yet have them. But we have this illusion that we get what the majority wants. That's what democracy is. Do you really think the majority of people don't want a sex trafficking pedophile and who was working with him and who was in on this stuff not to come to light? I still have hope in humanity, and I still believe that people want these things to come to light, but they are not. The majority, I believe, wants it, but they are not. It has been proven now that 9/11 was there's more to 9/11 than what they released in 2001, and no one's looking into it. And it's not even. I mean, it's a factual statement. I mean, if you look into it deep enough with a unbiased view and drop the propaganda that you've been fed, you can come to that conclusion. But there's still so many people who are just lost in the idea that the government has their best interest in mind and that they would never lie and that they would never do anything of this nature. And it's insanity when it's been proven that Mossad was directly involved with 9/11. And the majority of people want answers on 9/11. I'm sure of that, but we do not get them. But we get to vote for trivial things, trivial things that don't really matter. We are allowed to protest, thinking that we're doing things. Even 20 minutes away from where I live, and people are on the side of the street protesting for the Epstein files to be released. And I don't live in a crazy populated place or anything of that nature, and people are protesting this, and it's like, I think the best thing we can do is talk about it, and I think they are doing something, but it's ridiculous that we have to protest to have a sex trafficking pedophile, you know, someone working for intelligence, to get that stuff released and the people involved and what was truly going on behind the scenes. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it seems like, to me, I mean, I don't want to go as far to say that we live in a dictatorship, because I don't think it's one person, but I mean, I don't know what the popular majority has decided in like the last 25 years that has, been, um, how do I say, how how it mattered, how it was important in any way, shape, or form. And I didn't know. I'm not that old, so I think I was like a freshman in high school when Donald Trump won the election in 2016, and it was brought to my attention at that time that you can still not be elected president if you win the majority of votes, because Hillary Clinton won the majority, but she did not become president. And I mean, I do I the reasons why that happened I do not disagree with, But it was news to me because that's how people portray a democracy. Whatever the majority wants, the majority gets. But that is not the case. That is clearly not the case. I think the majority of people would probably, it's hard saying, not knowing, but probably want to stop funding a genocide in Palestine. But we don't. We still fund it. I mean, what real say do we have over anything of importance? We vote on trivial things for the illusion of freedom, for the illusion of control, for the illusion that things need to go through us before they can be implemented. But this is simply not the case. This is simply not the case. There's a whole behind the scenes going on. And that's why democracy in its final form is slavery. It's the illusion of freedom with no freedom whatsoever. And I think we're moving towards that. And I think we're already in that to a certain degree. Because, like I said, I don't really know what we've done of importance in the last 25 years. People voted on what, legalizing marijuana, like, as if we need that, as if that's going to help us, the society, which is just making it so people are more lazy, more passive, don't care about important things as much. I mean, I think it seems to me like less and less people are caring about important things nowadays. It's just about video games and TV and sports and, you know, the weekend and trivial trivial things, things that do not matter, things that are unimportant in any way, shape, or form. And then you try to have a serious conversation, and people, I mean, I've heard it so many times nowadays. It's like you're having a serious conversation, and you can be passionate and you can be like, this is big stuff, like this matters. And people are just like, yeah, I just don't like to focus on it. I just don't like to, I just don't think about it, and it doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect my life because they see you being so passionate and thinking that it's ruining your life. And to a certain degree, it is because you understand the injustice that is being committed. But I mean, people's reasons for not looking into these things are, it's uncomfortable, it's hard, it makes me feel bad, and it's like things worth doing aren't just sunshine and rainbows. It's like if you think this stuff is morally wrong, if you think this stuff is wrong in general, then you need to speak up. For a long time, I believed that passivity would win. I think it sounds crazy to say passivity would win, but I believed, the truth. I mean, I could always see the truth behind the scenes. And I was like, it's just, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I can look at this and say, this is what's happening. And I feel like, I don't know, I had faith in other people. And I was like, everyone can see that. And I still do have faith in other people. I think the silent majority leans to the side of truth, leans to the side of justice, leans to the side of all of these moral, inhumane things happening in this day and age. And they're just like, when will it stop? And I think many of us have been on that side for a long time. But it's getting to a point for me that I think the one side is so passionate, one side is so outspoken that the silent majority will not win because they're being silent. They're being silent. And you're losing the people who are so passionate about it are hitting people on their side through propaganda and through other means to make them believe that, well, I mean, they don't see the counter argument because the counter argument's there, but the majority is silent or is being silenced. And that's just ridiculous. And I think we all have a moral responsibility to stand up for that which we believe is right. And as I said, for a long time, I thought it would just come to, I thought the truth would set us free. And I thought the stuff was pretty blatant, the stuff was pretty obvious. But then it's like you just, this is the things that happen, and you're like, oh, this must be groundbreaking, this must be like shaking the news to its core, and then no one's talking about it. Like how people think Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide, which I don't think any rational person really believes, because it makes absolutely no sense. You know, like all the cameras just happened to crash when it was right like the day he killed himself. The day before he killed himself, the inmate was taken out of his cell and wasn't replaced with another one, so he was alone, which is against the rules essentially of someone who's on like the suicide watch list. They can't be alone in a cell, and had a plethora of clothes for no reason, and was able to string it up, tie it up, and hang himself, and had knives in his or sharp objects. It's like, what? It's like, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely jack diddly sense. And it's like, you expect everyone to be talking about this, but no one is. But the silent majority knows. But it's time for the silent majority to speak up, because if nothing changes, nothing changes. And there is people speaking up, and it's some of them are on the right side, but other ones are clearly have an agenda, clearly push rhetoric that implies that you can't question this without being, racist or anti-Semitic or anything of that nature. And it's absolutely ridiculous. If we truly stand for freedom, we truly need to protect our First Amendment right, which is being able to say that which we believe without repercussions, without being able to have civic conversations. You know, I wish I had more answers to these problems, because I don't know a better form of government than democracy. But to me, democracy is not the best form of government, because it's never, it's either, it's never been, it's always been in its final form, it's like it turns to slavery. And then even before its final form, even in the beginning stages, it's like we had a democracy, and slavery was legal forever. And in the end, democracy in the end didn't even defeat slavery. War did. We had to have a civil war. We couldn't even agree. That's the thing with democracy. It's like, oh yeah, let's have a vote, but if we really strongly disagree, we're just gonna go to war about it. It's like, what? What kind of government are we in? It's like, yes, okay. If it doesn't matter, if we don't really care about it, it can go to a vote, and then majority chooses, I guess. But if we really care about it, if we're really passionate about it, then we're just gonna go to war. Which, it's not a democracy. It's not a democracy. And I know there's stuff like we were founded as a republic, not a democracy, and that's just um, beside the point, I guess, because no one views us as a republic. We're viewed as a democracy, and democracy kept slavery around forever until a war put its end. Um, and now we just vote on trivial little things that don't really matter, and we act like we're in control. We act like we're doing something. We feel like we're doing something, but in the end, we're being manipulated. In the end, the media that's being pushed is swaying us to one way or another. In the end, they have all of our information, and they confirm they know we have confirmation bias, and they appeal to our confirmation bias. And you can't even have that's why it's impossible to have conversations nowadays with people on the other side, because you're both being fed information that is just confirmation bias, and then you can't bring it back, have a civic conversation with somebody, and see the holes in both of your arguments, and see how there's an agenda, there's a narrative going on to try to not promote communication, and at the same time promote violence and promote hatred. And it's sad, and it's horrible, and it's it's really, because when you get down to the core of things, so many of us agree. So many of us The majority, I believe, has the same ethical code. But people so often don't disagree on ethics. People just disagree on the means to the end. You know, people don't disagree that, you know, innocent people dying is bad, but people disagree about the way we go about it. You know, like with gun control, some people think, all the gun deaths it will get better if we just ban guns. And then other people think, well, there's going to be a massive amount of guns in circulation, and then the common person won't have a gun to defend themselves against the people who have them illegally, and then, the government has more power over us, so on and so forth. And then it just gets into an argument of, well, more people die in car crashes, so let's take all cars away. And it's like you're just trying to like straw man people's arguments, and you're just trying to bring up points that dissolve them, when it's like we agree on ethics. It's like we agree innocent people dying is bad. We agree women and children dying in wars is bad. We agree sex trafficking is bad. But yet we're in Palestine helping Israel commit a genocide. We're not releasing Epstein files. We're not delving deeper into the 9/11 case, even though anyone who looks at it unobjectively can see it should be looked back into. That's my problem with democracy, and that's why I think we're in a slavery. We're in its final form is slavery, and we're approaching this slavery because the majority agrees on so much, but we do not receive it. The things that are hidden from us, the things that are not told to us, the things that are said to us in service to manipulation, the propaganda that is pushed, the way that they are trying to divide the people. It's deeply unsettling and deeply unfortunate. And I've seen it for a long time, and I think you probably have too, and so many of us have. But the silent majority is silent, which needs to stop because it's just, I guess nothing's going to happen if nothing happens. So it's time to make something happen, I guess. And we need to make it, it's like I remember in school one time, one of my teachers said something. He was like, because we had a rule, you couldn't use your phone, or like, yeah, you couldn't use your phone or something to do with the phone. Like, yeah, like you couldn't really use your phone. So yeah. And one of my teachers is like, if you guys just all came together and agreed that you were going to use your phones, the school couldn't stop you. I mean, if only a handful of people do it, it can be stopped. People can go to detentions, people can get kicked out, people can get expelled, and they'll only do it for so long, and then they'll be like, okay, I need to stop, or they'll drop out, and whatever happens happens. But when the whole entire school does it, you can't kick out the whole school. You can't just expel the whole school. You can't just give everyone detentions. I mean, maybe for a day, maybe for a week, but to be a certain point that you'd have power. You'd have the power, you'd have say, you'd have be able to negotiate something, and you'd say, these are our terms. And I remember, the teacher told us that, knowing that it would never happen, because no one ever comes together in that way. And I mean, it was a trivial example, and it was, yeah, we shouldn't have phones in school anyways. You're trying to learn, you're not trying to, text your buddies. And obviously, I disagreed with this at 16 and 17 and 15, but looking back, obviously, I'm definitely no phones in school. Um, but yeah, you just you knew the majority wasn't going to come together on it, and there was not going to be a just a whole day in school the next day where everyone was just staring into their phones, staring away at the void, not doing schoolwork. It was just preposterous. But the main point is that if we all did come together, something would happen. Change would happen, and yeah, something would happen. But I believe, I believe this is deep seated. And I believe there's deep-seated corruption. And I believe things like marijuana is just being pushed down our throats to make a more lazy, passive community, to make a more passive and lazy, not caring country. So you can drop crazy information on people's heads and, they just kind of like, whoa, that's crazy. And then just really never think about it again, or have no motivation to spread the word, or have no motivation to go say, like, no, this is wrong. What are we doing here? And morality, I mean, I think Nietzsche was right. He said God is dead and we killed him. I mean, I don't think Nietzsche wanted this. I don't think Nietzsche was was hoping for this to happen by his stating this, but I think it was an observation. He looked around and he said, God is dead and we killed him. And with the morality in this day and age, I mean, that's what it seems like to me. Morality is insane. There's almost no morality anymore. Only a few select people have high morality, and it's been swept underneath our feet. And people think no morality is freedom. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And something needed to change a long time ago, and it didn't. And that's why we're in the position that we are now. But better late than never. And, the best time was back then, but the second best time is right now. And if you agree with these messages, it's time to start talking about it. It's time to stand up. It's time to stop being passive. It's time to stop being silent. And for a long time, I was silent because I didn't want to speak on things that I was not educated on. But now I see it as my civic responsibility and my moral responsibility to talk on these things. So I'm doing my due diligence and becoming educated on these things. And it is worse than I thought. And it's more deep seated than I thought. And it's more disheartening than I thought. And do not let that scare you from going into it, because the truth will set you free. And we need that. We need that. Willful blindness is the chief sin of the ancient Egyptians, and they were spot on with that. Willful blindness, it places all the problems on your future self and it makes the present just an illusion. You don't live in true reality. And so many people nowadays don't live in true reality. Just go through the motions, don't understand life any way, shape, or form, and are completely manipulated by their phone, by technology. They are controlled. They have no free will. I believe in free will in a philosophical aspect, but I think in this day and age, so few people actually have free will. When you think about how many times a day people look at their phone, when you think about the algorithms that know what to push to these people, the information that they want them to consume, the information and the bias that they are providing them, people don't have free will. They stare at their phone 6 hours a day, and their phone is pushing an agenda. So then, when they're not staring at their phone, this agenda is on their mind constantly, and that's all they think about. That's all they are. That's Yeah, yeah. They have no free will. They have no free will, and moral and humane injustices are being acted out, and no one is talking about it. And the people who know are the silent majority. They're the wise people who are silent by nature, who listen more than they speak, for the most part. Some people are very outspoken, and then, they go down as crackpot kooks, even though the silent majority hears it and they're like, yeah, kind of right. We have Palantir, who's starting to get, you know, already has crazy information about each and every one of us, which is, basically what Edward Snowden got sent to Russia for, because he realized that the Patriot Act was essentially unconstitutional, and he called it a crime and became a criminal, which is insane. And now, to get around that loophole, we we sell the information to a third party, and then the third party therefore is allowed to use it, and we're in direct cahoots with the third party. Great. The GDP of the United States is like 20 trillion, I think. That's how much BlackRock has. They're basically a whole country. They're matching the GDP of quote unquote the strongest country in the world. No one cares. It's normal, I guess, that they own all the housing. It's normal that a weird fire happened in Hawaii and they bought everything, kicking out the people who lived there forever. That's just normal, I guess. That's just justice, I guess. That's just what happens in the freest country in the world, in the best country